going on right now that that made more sense to organize. Like ambassador program obviously is one of our big priorities right now. And so just wanted to take some time to talk about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and next steps. So I need your feedback on some things. So, oh, thank you, Pam, for taking notes. So first thing is, I don't know, I just looked like an hour ago, we had about 15 people that applied for ambassadors, which is great. So we at least have the number we need or we were shooting for. And I'm assuming since today's the deadline, we're going to get an influx of some applications today too. But I just like they're mainly I did a quick look. They're mainly public libraries. We had 2 academic libraries. We haven't had any school libraries or tribal libraries yet. We had 1 state library representative apply, but the majority were public libraries. We did have, it looks like a decent representative of like rural and urban and suburban. And we have a really good geographic diversity. I mean, Texas, Wisconsin, I think we have some East Coast. I remember seeing, I think Wyoming. We've got a lot of different, there was someone from Pennsylvania. Like we've got states that we do not have represented here for sure that applied, which was great to see. So thank you for everyone for getting the word out, because I think geographically we got the word out and we definitely have, are going to have a nice spread there. I think if you, the thing that we might be missing a little bit is just like that diversity of library type. But then our review committee, we have, thank you for everyone that's volunteered. We have 4 of our advisors, Jerry, Allison, Madeline, and Dorothy volunteered to help, as well as we have Jen G, Seiji, Kara, and Alicia from our group. So if we end up being, the plan like for review is if we end up being still around 15, we're probably just going to have everyone review all of them. If we suddenly get an influx today of like 10 more, which is possible, right, at the last day, then we're going to split it into 2 groups. So everyone's not reading like 25 applications, right? So I think we're still probably going to need 2 meeting times because we couldn't get everyone to like talk at the same time. But so we'll just kind of see how that plays out today. If we have 2 groups, then the plan will be that Pam and I we'll try to attend both group meetings and review them all. And then Pam and I, like each group will sort of say like yeses, maybes, and nos, right, in their group. And then Pam and I will sort of like look at that maybe list, see the number we have to get to, look at that geographic spread, the types of library spread, right, to kind of make those final decisions. But hopefully we can accept all the yeses from both groups and then some of the maybes, right, from both groups too. So that will be the process. There's some documents in the agenda that we wanted to go through today. The first one is how we're evaluating these folks. So and actually I'm talking about all this today. Both Julie and Becca, who put a lot of time, I need to give some credit to both of them, who put a lot of time into this, just couldn't be here in the meeting today. But if you click on that evaluation rubric for a minute, this, please, as I'm talking through it, if you have comments, please just put it in the Google Doc, like add a comment, or if you have a suggestion for how to reword something, because this document needs to be sent out, very early next week with all of the applications. So please feel free to speak up in the meeting, but also if you just want to put a comment as I'm talking through it, do that. Obviously, there's still a few comments in there we're clearing up, but basically the idea is we wanted to be clear at the top, like the goals we have for this ambassador program. I mean, we're also going to send that one sheet that we made that gives an overview of the program, but like, so everyone has top of mind, like, here's what we need these people to do, right? We want them, we're looking for people that have the potential to grow this, our group of library makers. We want to broaden the diversity of our leadership team. We want people that contribute unique technical or programmatic expertise. We want to bring different types of libraries to the group. We want to bring different geographic representation, and we want to bring different demographic representation. So again, if you have any comments, thoughts on what those, if we should add something, please speak up or feel free to add a comment in there. But we just wanted those kind of things top of mind for people as they go through. we set up this rating scale from like 1 to 5, and the middle 3 being like it meets expectations basically, and then exceeds expectations or below expectations. Julie had just commented, like, do we want to give some explanation on that? So we just haven't resolved that piece yet. But then as we go down the list, basically those sections are like participant goals and motivation, networking and outreach capacity, programming expertise interest, library maker values. Those are all linked to specific questions in the application. So what's underneath is like the question we asked. So basically, as everyone's reviewing the application, we want them to think of these broad themes of like, you know, the reason we asked for their social media channels and the ways that, you know, they can help the organization grow is because we're looking at their network and outreach capacity, right, for this role. So we sort of group them that way, and then they're linked to questions. We decided that we also wanted one that was like, we said overall impression, that we weighted a little bit more. So everything is 5 points except that last one, which is basically, now, you know, you've read all these questions, but think of all those big goals that we have for the ambassador, because, you know, it might be someone that's in an academic library and we know we don't have a lot of those, and their application was okay, but we want to wait, like kind of weight it a little bit more because we know we want that voice in our group, right? So it might be like sort of these outside factors. And that's a chance to look at their video, like get just sort of an overall impression of the person and how you kind of, that's sort of your like gut feeling, right, about that. And so we weighted that 10 points. So there's like an overall score of 30 points. There's a place to add comments. And then we'll obviously, when we meet, so everyone will kind of fill these out individually, go through all the applications. And then when we meet, we'll be like, hey, let's look at our scores, like who's on the high end, who's on the low end, what's in the middle. And then we can sort of have discussions. I mean, there's usually some agreement, right? There's usually some that are like, some people rated it high, some low, and we have to discuss why. And you're like, oh yeah, I didn't see that in that application, right? So that's what's so important about that meeting piece too. Because sometimes after the 12th application, you start to, you know, miss some things, right? Any thoughts, questions, comments on this, things you think we're missing?
I have a question about, as people fill these out, are you going to collect everybody's reviews in one folder, or are you going to have them individually do it? And then, I mean, are we going to see all the different reviews?
Good question. I think in the past we've made like one big spreadsheet, right, with every application, and at least people can put the rating, right? So we can sort of see what the group, like the whole rating is. I think the comments can sort of be their own document, you know what I mean? And people could discuss, we could collect them later if we need, or have a folder, but I think it is nice to see all those numbers in one spot so you can kind of gauge where we're at. So we could ask people to do that.
Just so I'm making sure I understand correctly, the spreadsheet with the numbers, that will only be the average of everyone's rating, right? Each person will be filling this out. What shows up on the spreadsheet is not all those responses, just the average.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we can like, I mean, what we may just want to do is make a copy of this form, like Ambassador Rubric Jerry, Ambassador Rubric Jen G, right? And send everyone that individual link too, just so then they can copy it. And but then at least it hopefully goes into a spot, right? One spot too. But yeah, that, I think that sheet would
Maybe
just be overall rating.
They could each have their own subfolder. Jerry's reviews, you know, Alicia's reviews, something like that. It's for our committee. I was just like thinking how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And can you remind me, I forgot, is there also going to be an in-person interview or chit chat with the committee, or it's just based on the written application?
Yeah, we didn't just because we didn't think we had time
Yeah.
to do it.
That's all- I
that's
just
why
couldn't remember.
yeah, so we asked people to submit a video. So that was sort of in place of being able to do it in person. We just didn't think we had enough time to like to do all those interviews, schedule them, and then decide. I mean, I would say like if we're really stuck on a couple people, you know, we could also just hold and just be like, oh, we really can't decide between these 2 or 3 people, right? And we could do it if needed. Is it everyone feel good? Not worry, okay? I don't a little something. I got a couple thumbs up. Okay. Okay, great. There's still time today if you want to look at this a little bit more, put any feedback, but the plan is, you know, everyone's going to have submitted their applications. I think Pam and I will probably this weekend be working on this, and hopefully by like end of day Monday, we can get these out to everyone, because the review committee is meeting like the next week. So we want to give people a week to look at everything and have time to read them all and put some thought into it. But if anything else pops up, please feel free. But that's that piece. And then soon after, we have to onboard these people, which is the next piece that comes up very quickly. So the plan is, you know, next week, everyone's reviewing the applications. That following week, we're meeting and discussing and making decisions. And then by the I think it's like the 22nd or something, that following Monday, we're, you know, we're letting everyone know, which means then we have to say what they're doing and what we'd like them to do. So, so onboarding process is the other thing the structure group's been working on. I'm the sole representative of the group today, so sorry I'm doing all the talking today, but we just had scheduling conflicts today. So, but the next document is the ambassador onboarding process. So if you click on that link, this came from, if you remember, we had a group meeting and we did a big Jamboard, and we took ideas from all of you of what should be in the onboarding process. So we took all of that and tried to organize it into what would be like a reasonable orientation. Keeping in mind, we said that the average these folks would spend is about 8 hours a month, right, on this project. So you'll see in that first 2 months, like we're trying to estimate times for things to keep it, you know, close to what we said people would spend time-wise. So the idea is, I mean, realistically, we put like June, July, it's like sort of those first 2 months of getting started and orienting. One of the things, actually Pam had this idea, which was a good one, is that we could, you know, Mighty Networks, the platform has this ability to do courses, right, that we've been thinking about anyway for our group. And so she was like, hey, we could like kind of pilot a course, like an onboarding course for our ambassadors, and try using that system with our ambassadors and see how that goes. So that seemed like a nice way to, like a nice kind of soft way to try doing a course and see how that feature works, right, with this group. So the components right now, again, feel free to put comments in here, but is that there'd be like an orientation, 1 hour orientation on Zoom. We're probably going to have to do like 2 different times, because it'd be great to get people live if we can, so they can ask questions, right? And the good thing is that Pam and I, but it was more Pam than me, led a charter group orientation recently, which has a lot of these things in it, right? I see Evie shaking her head because she was in it, right? So we have a lot of that, luckily. I mean, I think we need to tweak it a little bit, obviously, for the ambassadors, but we have a bit of our background and our values and things like that. So we have some of that started. We just have to sort of tweak it a little bit for the expectations for this group. We said that we'd like them to attend at least one happy hour or STEAM Seeker event. So basically they need to come to one of our online events. They need to join Mighty Networks and watch like the how-to video, basically get to know the platform a little bit, do the welcome checklist, which I know Jen G is going to talk about a little bit today, which has some things about posting and things in it. So hopefully that means they'll be engaged in the community a bit. And then we were talking about like, do we also want some feedback from them on the site itself? And that came up. So, so we have like maybe sending a message to library makers account. I think if we make this a course, we'll have to figure out, there might just be a section of like feedback on the course. So how people are giving feedback is a little fuzzy, but like also while they're on it, we want them, I think part of their role is to give us feedback on ways we can improve it or things we could, that they're gonna have gone through it and make that process more streamlined. We want them to watch the Makers in the Library webinar series. So those are the pre-recorded webinars that we did about the toolkit. And so again, that lends itself really nicely to the sort of course, like you could watch a video, we all have people like comment on what they learn and have a little discussion. So it also helps build some community amongst these ambassadors, right? They can get to know each other a little bit, comment on one another. They'll have this little course they're going through together. The other thing that came up, so I think those are like pretty straightforward, right? We get to the fuzzy ones towards the end here. So the last two, and I put a comment in here. So what came up in the Jamboard was like all these other types of PD that would be helpful for people, like how to facilitate online events or PD on social media and marketing or DEAI. So I put a comment for anyone to pop in here or have a discussion, but I think it's really ambitious to say we're going to create from scratch 3 PDs on different topics by June and July, right? Because it's coming up really fast, right? It could be we spread some of these out throughout the year instead. It would probably be nice to have at least one of them, right, launch in June or July. But the other question I put in here, I don't think it has to be us creating it from scratch. Like if any, like we're going to use the Makers in the Library webinar series. Like, is there a webinar you know of or a great video you know of or something that helps get across some of these concepts that we could say, hey, watch this. It doesn't have to be an hour, right? Like watch this 10-minute video about social media and marketing in your library and comment in the section and have a little discussion about it, right? So that's one ask like of this group is just either if you know of pre-recorded videos or of people, right? Like if we do have to sort of create something from scratch, if there's people you know that have some expertise. I'm going to pause there a quick minute because the last one gets even more questions that I'm going to ask you. But thoughts, questions, comments? Does everyone like the idea of maybe piloting this as a course on Mighty Networks? Yes, no, not sure. I'm seeing some yeses. I'll move on to the last thing, which was we wanted to brainstorm a little bit with all of you, but I'll say the other thing I thought of in kind of prepping for this meeting is that we have all of our roles in our various committees. And it was like the structure group's role to kind of come up with a structure for this, but I realized we don't have it as anyone's role to like lead ambassador onboarding. So I think we're going to need to tap into some volunteers, right? That are obviously Pam and I are going to be involved in this. We'll help with that orientation Zoom and things like that. But helping, it's a lot, right? To put together these PDs and all these things. And we're going to create this buddy system that we're going to talk about next. So I'll put a more global note out, but please keep thinking if that's something of interest to you and helping to onboard ambassadors, that would be great. It's not a specific role that we had right now. We just weren't thinking about it, but I do think we need to sort of spread this out a little bit between our group and have some folks be involved.
I kind of think that if you and I develop a course and have all these modules in the course, then it'll be easier for all of you to figure out, like, I'll plug in on this day and I can help with this part. So if everybody kind of just lends a hand in some way in a relevant manner, I would hope that each library could be involved in some way and just help that. And so that it'll lighten the load for everybody.
And definitely the piece we need your help with is this buddy system that we all talked about. And agreed to as we kind of launched this. So I'm actually going to open a Jamboard for this. I mean, I have some text in here, but in order for the structure group to put more structure to this, we needed more ideas from all of you. So that was part of what we wanted to use our time today. So let me put this in the chat. It basically has the same content that was on there. Oh, the link was in there too. Sorry, I forgot I already put the link in there. So I just used the same Jamboard that we used for brainstorming the onboarding process. It's just slide 2. So if it automatically puts you in slide 1, just go to slide 2. But basically, the buddy system, there's like the structure of it. We have like the goals around it, and I have the actual expectations. And I sort of seeded this a little bit with some of what our group, oh, by the way, I didn't officially announce, but the structure group voted that we want to be called structure group and not internal affairs. So that's why I keep calling us that. But we had a little internal discussion and vote. And so we decided to keep our name structure. Basically, I think Julie had the idea that it might be really nice to have little pods, like instead of it just being a one-to-one charter member to ambassador, if it's one charter member to 2 ambassadors. So, and the reason being, like, then it feels like sort of a nice little group, like ambassadors get to know one another as well. Like you sort of get a buddy ambassador that might be doing similar things as you, as well as you have a connection to someone in our leadership group. So that was a little different, right, than the original idea that we talked about, but thought it could also help because it's then like if you're setting up a meeting with your pod, it's just less of those too, right? Like, I mean, if we can get a small group together. So I put like, check, yes, if you agree with that, or if you have another idea, add it to the Jamboard. But that was, I see some checks going up there. Because if we have then about like 14 ambassadors, that means we'll need about 7 people, right, that are stepping up to help lead our little pods. I see a couple checks. Feel free to put other ideas in there, but I'm going to go to the others. Again, add Post-its in here if you have other ideas or thoughts or text. But I just threw up 2 goals, I think, for why we're doing this, right? I think that'll be important to share in our orientation. These are not beautifully worded yet, but feel free to add more goals or check if you agree with this. But I think the reason we're doing this is to like build community among the ambassadors and the charter members, right? Because we want people to feel like they're part of a leadership team here, right? That's helping us to move this forward. So I think that's one of our goals, to make sure that we're building community and connection. And then I put like to provide a clear communication path, basically, for ambassadors. So it's always nice to have a point person to reach out to if they have a question, or they have really something exciting to report, or they want to share, right? Just like it helps that communication pathway, I think, would be the other big reason. I might be missing goals, or those might not be worded fine, but if you can, again, either check if you kind of agree or add a new goal there, that would be helpful. A great check mark. The last one was like serious, had a lot of oomph. I loved it. Okay, I'm going to keep moving, but feel free to add checks or Post-its. But the last piece, we definitely need help brainstorming right now. So I'd love some Post-its to pop up there. Our expectations, like what are we actually having this pod do, right? And we want to be clear for all of you and for the ambassadors what that is. So what had kind of arisen from the previous Jamboard is that there'd be some sort of regular meeting with this pod. So how often? Maybe that's something you just decide within your pod. I don't know if we want to say if the expectation is every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every month, you know. So love some ideas there. We also what came out of that Jamboard was like having some sort of like shared checklist or a way to keep track of what people are doing and accomplishments. So again, love some feedback, other thoughts, ideas on the how of that, to put some thoughts and post-its on there. And then the last one was that group would be like setting goals together. Like, we want to get this many new people onto the network, or we want to create, you know, we want to present at this many conferences, or, you know, we want to have this many blog posts go out this year about this topic. So again, love some additional expectation ideas or ways to do that. Feel free to speak up too, but also put a post-it in. Great question. There was a question there about would a larger pod work better? Maybe 2 charter members and 3 ambassadors per pod. I don't mind that idea. I think it'll be harder to schedule, but if we could say like just at least 1 charter member has to be present, do you know what I mean? That might then like charter members have a buddy too, right? If you can't make it.
That's sort
Yeah.
of what I was thinking. Like, I put that in. So like if one charter member, excuse me, can't make it, or even like one of the ambassadors can't make a scheduled meeting, like you don't have to cancel it. You can still move forward.
Yeah. Great. A lot of people like it. It seems like that's fine with me. Yeah, I love that idea. Probably helps. Then it's not just like, yeah, one-on-one, and you still have a little group meeting.
And developing ways to have asynchronous meetings. Meetings are very, very hard. And to make that a norm, to have somehow it okay if you're just doing a chat on the platform and it's like a meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we can add that too about the meetings. So it's that it can be like asynchronous discussions on the Mighty networks too. I mean, the point is that we're just checking in always, right? That was a good question. I think that might be you, Evan or Evie. I don't know. I see an E, so that's my guess. But that the specific pods connected to specific tasks or roles.
Yeah, that would.
I think it's a good idea. We could at least like group people. We'll know what they said on their application of things they were interested in, and we can sort of try to group people that way.
I imagine that might naturally occur when we review them. We're like, oh yeah, this person would be so great to work with Evan, like totally the perfect match or something, but we won't know until we see.
Can folks put a couple ideas for what should be on this checklist? The checklist has come up a couple times, but I think part of what we were going to help create this checklist, but we weren't totally sure what should be on the checklist. Do you know what I mean?
So we have certain expectations around the responsibilities of the ambassadors, right? And that was part of what hopefully attracted them to applying for the position. So would that be, would those kinds of tasks or goals be what you want on that checklist, or do you need it drilled down farther than that? Or
Yeah.
some combination of both.
I wonder if maybe those are connected, the checklist and the goals, right? Like you're setting your goals and you're sort of.
And how do you get there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need a little clarification. Is this checklist that we're talking about a checklist for what it means to be a buddy to an ambassador? Or is it a checklist? Are they graduating from the orientation program?
I think the idea was that it was just a way so that just say I'm meeting with my pod, and I can be like quickly look like, oh wow, I saw that you attended this conference. That's great. Give us some feedback. So there's just a way that we're sort of all keeping track of what everyone's doing, and it's not just verbal or a chat in the meeting. So we have like a recorded way that we're sort of keeping track of what people are doing, and that can help guide conversations. I think that was the purpose, but I'm open to other ideas. I was taking it from the Jamboard. So okay, I know we're going to run out of time. So we'll work with this. Thank you for your feedback. I think the structure is great because that's like number one, and then we can still sort of work on these expectations and things. If you have other ideas as we go, please feel free to put them in here, but we'll try to send something out to the group to respond to after. But we're moving and grooving. So okay, I want to turn it over to Evan and Edie to talk a little bit about what they've been doing with event planning.
Hey, so I don't know how many of you got a chance to look at the draft of the planning document. We made that a couple weeks ago, and then at our last engagement meeting, talked it through and figured out how it would work. And to make it a little better, we just sort of scrapped it and started with a new one that the link should be in there. So basically, we wanted one document that would do sort of four, or really three things for us. It would be a calendar of events. It would be a roster for both our possible presenters and then also for our producers. And what we could actually do is use both of those even directly from the producers to populate this information in here. We made two forms. One is for just a new presenter. It's sort of our recruitment referral type form. So if you know anybody or you yourself feel like you have topics you could present on, or we also added blogging to that as an option. Would it be easier if I shared my screen instead of having everyone jump around? Let me do that.
I couldn't open the form because I don't have permission to view it. Just so you know.
Okay. I will work on those.
Permission.
I thought I just shared the fill out the form just to fill out the form.
It might have been the wrong link. I've done that so many times, sent not the correct link, but anyway.
Share screen.
Let me see if I drop it in the chat, if that will
Okay.
make it accessible. Hang on one sec. Where's the chat? Here we go.
But maybe
yeah, I'll fix the settings.
Oh, there we go. I can watch that now.
Okay. So two forms. One is a sort of, are you interested in being a presenter? Where they can give their name, basic contact info, the library they're at. I think we need to add, we'll add title in there as well. Their time zone. If they're interested in, yeah.
Sorry, just noticed it says Easter instead of Eastern.
Oops, I fix that. I can fix that.
Good catch, thanks. And then if they're interested in writing a blog, hosting a presentation, or both, the topics that they feel like they could either blog or present on, and then their feelings on presenting with a partner. So all of that information would help anyone who's doing the actual scheduling of events see, you know, who we could pull from. And then this form is more, we've checked in with possible presenters. We have one in mind. It's pretty set in stone. And we have them fill out these details with their name. Oh no, this is still the new presenter. 1 second. There we go. New event form. So they can give us the event title, the date, start and end time, and their time zone, so that when we have that information, we can populate in the actual full, more accurate time, their description. And then, oh, sorry, I gotta do some stuff. So then after that, we can get their information, their contact information. They can fill all of this out. And then at the bottom, we ask if there's another presenter. If they say no, they just submit the form. If they say yes, it repeats this a couple times so that we can get all the information for them. So those are the two forms that we have, just sort of to help auto-populate that spreadsheet so that there's not too many fingers in there potentially messing things up.
Yeah.
And then in the spreadsheet, we've got all the actual details from both of those forms coming in. We have, actually, first I'll show you a producer roster. So this one, I think I haven't created a form for, we could, but this is sort of the other end. We have the people that are presenting, and then whoever would be the producer, the sort of behind the scenes assistant. And this way they can just put their information in there. And when we have, because often it's repeated, I know Kennedy's done a lot of hosting, and I think Cara, have you done a lot of hosting? I know there's other folks that have done hosting, so then we don't need to type it each time. We can just auto-populate it and see who they are. And then the actual calendar should be fairly easy. I did a little bit of tweaking of things in here. So under the event title is where, this is more where like your actual schedulers would work and no one else would really make too many changes in here. They would, under drop down, pick the title of the event they're going to put in, and then it auto populates most of it. We would assign it a series. Sorry about the description. I was doing this during our May the 4th program yesterday. So just Star Wars was on, and, just on the brain. We could choose the platform, actually enter the link. I didn't know a good way to do that. The presenters info comes in, and then even for the producer, that also pulls, well, theoretically it pulled the information in there. I think I forgot to drag this down. Nope, that wasn't it. I'll fix it. But yeah, it should auto populate the producer's information. And then these last 4 sections are just more for other folks to make sure it's been promoted. We can put an initial in there, so if there's 2 folks trying to do that, they don't, miss it or repeat each other's work. We can keep the number of who's registered and who's attended, and then do the same thing of keeping track of evaluation surveys going out. So yeah, I'm open to any feedback. I think both of us are, this was trying to see what would work. It's not set in stone, and we can always adjust as we keep going and actually use it. But hopefully this is it's a combination of usability and comprehensiveness, so that nothing's missed, but it's not too taxing to actually get the info.
Yay.
Yeah,
It's great. What a lot of
Yeah.
great work. I'm curious if, and what everybody feels is if this should include in-person events, could that be an option? Because if we're going to do one at a conference and we want to promote it, if we're going to do a regional event once we grow, do we want to include actual events in person on there? A pop-up event in Chicago because there's ALA, or a pop-up event in Cleveland at PLA. Could we put those on there, or do you think it's mainly for online events?
I think it's good to have on here.
yeah, I think it can work for both.
Yeah,
Because I
absolutely.
mean, it's
'Cause-
just events, whether they be virtual or in person. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, because we'd want to promote them. I don't know if we'd want to send out evaluation emails, but a lot of these things we'd still want to keep track of.
Mhm.
We could have the
Okay, great.
actual location.
Yeah, we can tie this. We should think about how that ties to, I put a link to a conference tracking form in there. So that I started because I was starting to get lose my mind about all the conferences and who was going to what and what was happening. So so anyway, we should just touch base and figure out if those two get combined or if they're connected in a different way. But yeah. Other quick question I had was just so if we have a present, someone that we talk to that we wanted to recommend, is that the new presenter form? Because it might not be me, but I'm like, oh, I talked to this person and they might be interested in a
Yeah.
blog post.
I think, yeah, the way I envision it is that the new event form is just something that the organizers would send out. That's after choosing a presenter, making sure they're available on whatever date. Most of the details are set by then. So I think the new presenter is more of a referral. That's more what everyone can send out to anyone they talk to who's interested.
And then the idea is that your group follows up with them.
Yeah, I think, I mean, at the very least would be like, hey, thanks for submitting. We'll get back to you, as we're scheduling events, or if it's someone that just is interested in blogging, whoever's working on that can follow up.
The communications committee is very interested in the results on this forum. Let me just tell everybody. We want to know what's happening so we can put it out there.
So yeah, I would say the big next steps, in addition to giving any feedback you have on here, and we can make tweaks on our typos or errors in formula,
Mhm.
is to if you are a producer or interested in being a producer, please add yourself to the roster. And then if you are interested in presenting or know people who would be good at presenting or blogging, please spread that word, and then it'll be a lot easier to fill up our calendar if we have a larger roster.
This is great. Really deep. Thank you.
Anne, do you see the question from Anne in the
Oh no.
I
if
can ask.
go ahead, Anne.
Okay, so we are having our state library conference at my library at the end of this month, and we're going to do some sort of pop-up thing. And then I've applied to do two things at the regional New England conference in October. So do I fill out a presenter form once, and that takes care of everything from STEAM seekers to conferences? And then each time I'm doing an event, I fill out an event form. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. I'm very structured, so I gotta have my instructions.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think you've got it exactly how you would approach that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So yeah, you would do presenter once, and you would say, I like to present on A, B, and C. I also I'm going to conferences. And then when those things actually come up, you can enter them.
Okay, thank you.
And so Evan and Edie, let's loop together after this, 'cause I know we only have a few more minutes, but because I did have a conference tracking form, and I think there's some different information we need for conferences
Okay.
Okay.
that we might have to tweak the form a little bit, or and because I was also just trying to keep track of what we applied to, what we got accepted to, right? So anyway, and maybe just pause a quick minute or something, because I think we have to like figure out what things would need to add.
I wonder if it's even could be combined with this. So like the basic information could be on here and then the more detailed could just be in another
Right. Another tab or something.
tab on here, and then it
Yeah.
pulls in.
Yep. Yep.
Cool.
Thank you so much though. Yay. We only have 6 minutes left, and I want to make sure that Jen Gio gets to talk a little bit about the welcome checklist.
Okay, well, we posted it very late, but we got it posted. And really, Kennedy and I just had a few changes as far as like the order and maybe rewording some things. One of the things was to reorder it so that, you know, of course, fill out your profile, adjust your notifications. But then we were thinking, instead of introduce yourself, which you're almost doing when you fill out your profile, like maybe either share something that inspires you as a maker or ask a question in the news feed, or we could reword that, you know, however. And then once we get the map up, adding pin your location on the map, then RSVP to an event, then invite someone. And I know you're talking about just saying like attend a happy hour, Pam, in your orientation video, but I think an event is better just because happy hours are so consistent and some people will never be able to make a happy hour, that having just to come to or even attend an event, I mean, it could be reworded. That was kind of our idea as far as the welcome profile, welcome list. And Anne was the only one that commented, so I didn't know if anybody else had any suggestions, comments, ideas, care.
I'm just curious if everyone saw the post that you added to Mighty Networks and knew that it was there, because I just wanted people to get in the habit of checking that feed, because that's where we correspond and work together asynchronously. So maybe you have all notifications off for the whole place, but maybe that would be a good one to keep some notifications on, because we're looking for feedback on that feed.
And I think we decided no graphics, right, Kennedy? Like for the checklist, it's just a checklist.
No, yeah, we decided it on the main page or something that's more permanent would make more sense, but the checklist is something they do and click away from and get rid of. But I think making them like adding graphics to something that's like they're going to see more consistently, like on the welcome page or what have you, it would be better.
Better use of time. Yeah. And then the only other thing on the list is kind of our community guidelines, which I did link to in this document. So if you haven't gotten a chance to see that, because I did that kind of late too, please feel free to check it out. And we still need comments on that too. And then, our suggestion for the community guidelines was that it just has its own label under community space, so that it's so it's visible, you can see it, but we're not stuffing it in your face. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like you have to make sure, and you know, so it's a little more welcoming, because sometimes when social media slams it in your face, it's kind of off-putting.
Structurally, I'm a little bit reluctant to do that, because that's a whole new space, the way this
Okay.
thing works. And I would almost rather put it on About Live on one of the other things, but as you know how they have, sometimes we have a menu at the top.
Okay.
When you put a menu at the top, it doesn't create a whole new space. It could just be in either about or right on the news sheet and say community guideline or something there, because
The,
I have
the
to
other,
membership list you have to join it as a new thing, you have to join it. So, but maybe we want people to join it and say yes. So that's up to the group.
okay. Another suggestion was to put it in the about. Because you're probably going to look at that at some point. So I don't know. Ideas?
But I was going to say, here it is. It would be, if we did it in the about, it would be, if you look at the news feed, it would be one of these little things at the top. It could be community guidelines. It could be on every single one of them if you want. Rather than I have to create a whole new space and ask people to join it if I do it on the left. And then that's a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's important or maybe it's not important, but.
I think as a tab in the about would be okay. I mean, personally, I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Okay.
Is there any place that people could say like, yes, I agree to these guidelines? I think that was the other thing at in some meeting we were in that we talked about. I can't remember which one.
I just can't remember if it's in you when you create a profile and say you want to join, if I can go into there and add things. I just don't remember, honestly. I have to it's how Mighty Networks works. I have to figure that out. I mean, some of them you have to pay in order to get in. So they have things that you can do. I have to go look at it.
And it could be maybe when you join, can we add things to that where it's just like and they check a mark that says I agree to abide by community guidelines, and there's just a link.
Yeah, what I just don't know is if you can check a box, because I don't know how it works.
Okay.
But I'll research it. I think I shared an article with both of you, but I don't remember what was in the article, like a Mighty Networks article. Anyway. But on that note, if you want to see, we have a lot of analytics available to us on this site. And you can see, if I want to look at insights for the last month, the last 28 days, it's loading here. And I'm actually going to take this every month and save this as a PDF so you can look. You can see what types of things are happening here. You can see half of them, like what kind of posts we're getting, if people are engaging in it, if people are commenting. Now, one thing I want to ask here passionately is that outside, like brand new members are asking questions in the general news feed, and it's really depressing when you ask it and then nothing happens. So I don't always know the answer, but I put something as a comment so they know that somebody is actually listening. So if you can take one day a week or something to see if someone posted something and find out what's going on, so they're not left, like nobody comes here, pays attention to anything. Okay, 41 active members in the last month. Look at that. You can see which days are more active, what kind of things are contributing. And seriously, we have a lot of data, We even know who. Here it shows who are the active members. And if they're commenting, if they're posting, if they're asking questions, we have a lot of data available. So we can, our analytics folks can use that information, and you can ask for 28 days, the last year, the last day. You can look at the time of day. You can look at a lot of different information it's usually in the afternoon. You can see that people are on there, and sometimes it's weekends, but mostly not Saturday, it's Sunday. And you can see if they're mostly on a desktop. Most of them are on a desktop. Some are 14% are on the app though, 56 active monthly. So we have a lot of information about this, and we should use that information to make decisions. So, yep. We only just started, you can see here. That's a good start.
All right.
We've reached our top of the hour.
We've reached our time, yes. But we'll send out, the other thing I think we should just vote on our community guidelines. I think that is like a whole group decision. It's like reflective of our values. So, you know, we decided we'd do that asynchronously anyway, especially for people that can't be here. So please take time to comment on that. We'll leave like a comment period, close it, voting period, and then we can sort of agree to those as a team. So look for that coming out. But have a great weekend, everyone. Hopefully we get a few more applications today, but we're in good shape, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye.